I think Cary's downtown is a work in progress. I think it is a asset in which we cannot neglect, and we have clearly, in the comprehensive plan, made an agenda to move forward with. I think many successful municipalities across Illinois and the nation have shown time and again that reinvesting in your downtown is reinvesting in your property values in your schools. It reflects directly, and there is a correlation to the success of your village more often than not. I think that it is in the right direction because you're either moving forward or backwards. And we're fortunate enough to be moving forward with the Metro project. There are some beautiful, wonderful people who have opened up a few new businesses downtown, and we're lucky to have them. But I think, again, it is a priority near and dear to my heart that we contribute what we can to reinvest and draw business into Cary. When individual developers come to our village and come to the board and the ZPA to determine whether or not they can move forward with a project, and it's the board's decision with our consent to come together and decide whether or not this is the best thing for the village. How I would address it is by, first off, starting with, is this the highest and best use of this property? And pretty much any project you're going to do, realistically, maybe not on paper, but realistically, there are going to be people who have issues with it because of proximity, and, things that we can't avoid because very rarely are things as easy as they sound. And I know that personally, I would handle that by starting off with determining the highest and best use. Who does this affect the most? What are the potential negatives? Because we have to look at those before we look at the positives. With anything we do, there's always going to be lots of people that are very for it, but, what are the detrimental side effects of this? Very rarely does anything come without those. And so it's unfortunately a difficult battle sometimes with things, with properties such as Maplewood, properties such as First Street, with determining, what are the people who are coming, the people that are going, and how does this keep our property values, somewhere where we can be proud of. This is our home, and how do we help the enormous amount of citizens we have here already that have made this their home. So, after determining, the highest and best use, who does this affect the most, positively and negatively, I also want to leave it up to the professionals because they're looking for my opinion, and they're looking for us to make a decision. I really find it important to have appropriate, kind, and thoughtful, well-researched dialogue. I'm not a big fan of when people who speak well beyond their bridges. When you're not educated well in something, that's when you look for a professional. We have the village staff, many of whom I know, on a first name basis because they are the experts in their field, and that's why we have them. We really don't. We have a village administration that I think, for all the ones I know, you're going to be absolutely proud of. And I want to hear their input, and I want to hear the citizens' input, and I want to determine that with what I think ethically, where I sit in this issue, and then furthermore, more importantly, and most importantly, where do most of the citizens of Cary sit? Can this actually better us? Can this help reduce the tax burden of how many people are paying into, District 26, paying into the village, paying into 155? How can we see this positively reflect on our property values, positively reflect on how we as a village do business, how we're able to repair our roads and not push them from year to year, keep pushing from 19 to 20 to 21 before Three Oaks is just gravel. I really want, it's a combination of relying on many people, including ourselves, our guts, and doing the hard work of getting out and knocking on doors and finding out how those who are most adversely affected really feel about this, and not just assuming. I don't want to scare anyone because a couple people have brought up, some points in which we need to further explore. But at the same time, I don't want to also ignore the citizens who are maybe in closest proximity because a few other people have a louder voice. It's really important to weigh that. And most importantly, and what I'm the biggest proponent of, is listening to the citizens, listening to my neighbors, and listening to those that we have hired. Because if we don't really value their opinion, I think that's really a reflection of us, because at the end of the day, the board and administration are the ones who make the decisions of the people who consult and advise us. Well, if I were to come in a position in which I could be part of making a decision, receiving a $1 million grant in this hypothetical, wonderful situation, what would my ideal, picturesque storybook version of this be? Well, I would first ask myself, who our residents now are and who are going to be our residents in the future. Maybe I am a firm believer, if you're not moving forwards, you are moving backwards. And with property values like these, I don't think a lot of people here can afford to move backwards. Who are, in this first question, the people coming in buying these 1,800 to 3,500 square foot homes that make up a lot of Cary? And my question is it's a newer generation of people, possibly even such as myself, individuals 25 to 40, and they have different needs than years past. Now, our job's not to cater to them, but my job is to have what the citizens currently of Cary have said in the comprehensive plan, evaluate that and determine we have the funds available. We have a budget in which we can operate and pay the bills. We're not pulling from places that are unsustainable, which is really important to me. And then move forward with some infrastructure that we can lay the table to have a great meal, as I would say. So with that being said, if with that $1 million, I would heed very strongly to take the advice of a comprehensive plan and, as many municipalities have shown, invest in the downtown because a lot of downtowns that we're up against, if you think of it competitively, they're shaped entirely differently. And I'm not talking about maybe to the northwest. I'm thinking just a little bit more spherical there. A lot of what makes up the population of shoppers and such are those who live downtown. And when we don't have the condominiums, and I don't know if that's right for Cary, but we have to deal with what we have. And if that means being able to take some of that money and have a secondary square where our people can meet, because there's a lot of people who would love some foot traffic, and in downtown ourselves, we really only have about a block and a half. So I don't know if that's the answer. What I'd like to see, though, is the ability for us to encourage young people and happily maintain, if not grow, the property values of those of us who may be ready to move somewhere else or within the community as well. And the most important thing we can do to keep that growth of our home value and make it so we can leave here or move within our community and do it fiscally responsibly and invest in just of our constituents here is to create a atmosphere in Cary that many people want to come to. So with that being said, following the comprehensive plan, I find it important that we be a flagship of communities. I don't like when people compare other communities to how we're doing. I'd like to be the community in which people are looking up at us because we're doing things the way that really promote economic development. They promote happy citizens, and they promote strong property values, something that this community has enjoyed before. And I would like to see that be the trend upwards. If it hasn't already begun, it's something that we continue with. And by being that flagship, I believe that means reinvesting also in the ability to have corporate centers and industrial parks that come in with people wanting to build more. Because we do have a great low occupancy rate of those companies. But at the end of the day, the only way that the Cary taxpayers really win is by having other, most likely than not residential taxpayers paying into the pots. I think that my job is to see that we can have an increase in quality of services, an increase in quality of life, an increase in property values, without having what has become the normal increase of taxes associated with your property. I find it ironic. In 1994, the taxes on my home were around $4,500. In about 9 or 8 years, those taxes almost doubled. I think about 80%. And that has become a norm in which so many of either the residents, their parents have become accustomed to. And it's that growth, that unwavering increase in taxation. The only solution that I think is responsible and really keeps the quality of life here in Cary as wonderful as it is by having more businesses who are contributing to that pot, all the while giving us services that we all love. Regarding the current state of economic development in Cary, I feel that we have quite a bit of catching up to do. And I don't find that is at the fault of the administration we have, of the professional staff in Cary. I think they're doing so much with so little. I do feel, though, that economic development has increased at a rate that we hadn't necessarily expected in the last several years in many municipalities. I feel that we're behind. And I feel that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And then the rate that these other municipalities are having the expansion and development really hasn't been seen here in Cary. And that makes me sad because we have an opportunity to grow and become the flagship community in, southeast McHenry County. Yet there are municipalities, villages, and cities that have experienced growth more on par with the economic growth that the United States and even Illinois has seen in the last 5 to 6 years. And so I do feel like we're behind the 8 ball, and I feel that that can come down to planning, execution, and resources. Now, resources are difficult because if we don't spend the money, or if we don't have the money to spend, then we really don't have the resources unless a lot of citizens of Cary want to start doing some volunteer work. And when it comes into planning, I think we have a wonderful plan. And that is, like I've said before, the comprehensive plan. I think that is a great guidebook when it comes to how Cary can stay relevant. And I do think that there are so many things on that comprehensive plan, I don't want to speak out of turn, that we haven't really touched. And there are municipalities who have really knocked out a lot of things on those comprehensive plans. They have had a vision, they've had the resources, and they've executed on it. And Cary does have a plan, and they have motivation. We've had motivation. Whether or not we've executed, I'd like anyone to look and review the comprehensive plan and take a big red marker into it and check off what we've done. And there have been great things that people have worked really hard on, but we have a heck of a lot more in there that we can do versus what we have done. And it all starts with reinvesting what little funds we may have, but what we can make a priority into our downtown and into the areas that need to be developed, because otherwise little will be done with them. They've had an opportunity over the last 5 or 6 years of some modest economic growth to be developed, and they're not. And that really speaks for itself. Whether or not something should be developed isn't up to me. It's a matter of whether or not it has been. And I think the vacant lots, to say it again, speak for themselves.